Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning.
Is it morning?
Welcome to our Breakfast with the Boss, sponsored by Fidelity Bank. Quick housekeeping request. Please take a moment to turn your cell phones off or make sure that they're on mute. We are so appreciative of the support and partnerships we have with the businesses in the Neshoba Valley. As you may know, it is our mission and passion to help businesses and support. The support of our corporate sponsors really allows us the opportunity to continuously look for new ideas and ways to do that. I would like to ask all of our chamber board of directors, board of advisors, to take a moment and stand. I would like to recognize those folks that are here today. I know they stood pretty quickly, so there are some new faces in the room, and we will be making an announcement soon. And we'll, of course, be recognizing them at our annual social coming up in May. If you are interested in being a board of advisor or sponsor or getting more involved, I would love the opportunity to have a conversation and see what we can do. Of course, we wouldn't be here at the Breakfast with the Boss without our breakfast sponsor, Fidelity Bank. Fidelity has been a supporter and a sponsor of the Chamber for over 20 years. I want to say that this is our 22nd year celebrating breakfast with bosses. Fidelity partnership, of course, has been in bloom for much longer than I've been around. And I would love to recognize that the Fidelity Bank is also sponsoring the Economic Forecast Breakfast that will be held next Friday at Great Wolf Lodge. And I'm happy to also talk to anybody that is interested in more information about that. But I would also love to invite our Fidelity team to stand and be recognized. Businesses with a long-standing presence anchor the community's economic stability, provide reliable employment opportunities, and contribute to local prosperity. Their enduring commitment fosters a sense of tradition and continuity, enriching the community's cultural heritage and identity. Moreover, these establishments often serve as pillars of support, actively engaging in community initiatives, and nurturing lasting relationships with residents. Today, we would like to recognize 3 businesses for their long-standing leadership in the Neshoba Valley. And actually, is Cinch IT here? We're going to recognize 2 businesses today. Sorry. The Fort Devens Museum is a treasure trove for those who trained here, worked here, and lived here. Incorporated in the year 2000, it is a private nonprofit organization. Over the last century, more than 1 million men, women, and children have passed through Fort Devens. Their indelible markups and down the streets tell a story that the museum ensures will never be forgotten. The Fort Devens Museum holds artifacts, documents, and photographs reflecting the history of Devens from 1917 to the present day. The collections have already proved to be a valuable resource for scholars at many levels and will continue to add as appropriate. They continue to seek items directly related to both Camp Devens and Fort Devens, such as uniforms, photographs, equipment, deactivated inert weapons, and stories. Goals for the museum's 25th year include receiving 25 donations at $250, growing to 250 members, and realizing $25,000 in corporate sponsorships. Members receive quarterly newsletter and notice of special events. A visit to the museum brings history alive, offering information about Devens that will surprise even the most active local residents. Learn about construction in 1917 to support the Great War, done by the largest labor force assembled in the United States, through America's first peacetime draft in 1940, building more than 1,200 wooden barracks during the early days of World War II. History continues through the 1950s and 60s, when Fort Devens was a home to the Army Security Agency Training Center and school, and housing and training troops through the Korean and Vietnam eras. Some of the best stories are personal. I love the story of Carolyn Nally, a second lieutenant with Army Nurse Corps. After graduation from nursing school in 1942 and completing a 6-week basic training course at Fort Devens in 1945, she cared for American soldiers and German prisoners of war. One German prisoner gave her a cigarette lighter as a thank you for caring for him in the hospital, and another taught her to count to 10 in German, which she always remembers and taught her children. I hope you'll visit the museum and help keep our local history alive. And today, let's recognize Fort Devens Museum for their 25 years. And we'll do a photo afterwards, but I don't know if you want to say a few words.
I think Melissa just gave a wonderful history of Fort Devens. The only thing I will say is we are open on Tuesdays and Fridays from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. We're open on the third Saturday of each month, same hours, and we usually have a program on that day. Come by and visit us. Look out for us on the web at fortdevensmuseum.org. Find us on Facebook and like us. You're going to see a lot of stuff about Devens this year because we're celebrating our 25th year. Thank you.
If you grew up locally, you probably learned to ski at Neshoba Valley Ski Area. Neshoba Valley Ski Area opened for its first season in 1964. Back then, rope tows serviced 4 slopes. That season depended on Mother Nature for snow cover, and due to a wet, warm winter, very similar, this season only lasted 14 days. The base lodge had a gravel floor and was heated by a pot-bellied stove. Staff had to pack snow on the slopes with shovels due to lack of grooming machines. Through the 70s, 80s, and 90s, Neshoba expanded, adding a 2-lift bar in 1972, multiple chairlifts through the years. Today, Neshoba operates with 4 chairlifts, 2 conveyors, and 4 rope tows for an uphill capacity of 11,600 per hour. Neshoba Valley was one of the first ski areas in the country to allow snowboarding. Through 60 years, Neshoba Valley has been a kind and generous neighbor. In early March, there's a huge event during which proceeds to the Jimmy Fund, and their adaptive ski program is one of a kind. Neshoba Valley Snow Tubing Park, which opened in 2001, is New England's largest snow tubing facility with 4 lifts, over 600 snow tubes, and 16 lanes. Lest you think that it is all about snow, in less than 8 months, less than 8 weeks, the Tiki Bar will be open. Award-winning Tiki Bar will be open. In the summer months, Neshoba offers a children's day camp, an adult summer volleyball league, and a private swim club. Autumn brings Witches Woods, New England's premier Halloween scream park and haunted hay rides, with 4 attractions plus stage shows, the Jack-o'-lantern Jamboree, and more. And of course, the Outlook Restaurant is an on-site restaurant and lounge offering fine dining and catering year-round. Please join me in celebrating 60 years of fun at Neshoba Valley Ski Area. I put them all on the spot. I didn't warn them.
Good morning. Is it morning?
It's morning.
Anyway, thank you very much for the recognition. Yeah, it's been a long haul for Neshoba Valley, 60 years, hard to believe. As Melissa mentioned, we started with a couple rope tows and a few slopes, and now we're up to 4 chairlifts and 9 other lifts and a tubing park. Of course, Witches Woods in the fall. And mark it on your calendars, May 29th, opening night of the Sunset Tiki Bar and Grill. Award-winning. A lot of exciting new drinks and things to offer this year, and I think it'll be a lot of fun out there. We got some great entertainment as well. We'll see you on May 29th at the Tiki Bar.
Super special thanks to Ellen of the Shirley Friendship Fund for interviewing these businesses and writing up my presentations. Now, the other reason that we're here this morning is our breakfast with the boss. We do have 2 of our town managers, administrators, who are not able to join us last minute this morning, but we're super excited. We have Robert Pontbriand from the town of Ayr. And we have Jim Duggan, newly to the town of Littleton. And of course, our interviewer extraordinaire, Jason Kelly. There you go.
Good morning, Robert. Jim, nice to meet you. How you doing?
Good to see you again.
There you go.
Thank you very
Good morning,
much.
everyone. All right, I get to stay in today. So let's get started. Gentlemen, thanks for being here today. Why don't you just give us a quick introduction, how long you've been in the job, size of the town, size of the budgets, that kind of stuff. Robert, go first.
Well, good morning, and I want to thank Melissa and the Chamber of Commerce for having me again, and it's so great to see so many friends from Ayr. I'm Robert Pontbriand, the town manager from the town of Ayr, and this is my 14th year at that very special town, and look forward to talking with you this morning about some of the exciting things happening in town.
Great. Jim, welcome.
Good morning, and thank you very much for having me. Jim Duggan. I started in. You gave me the bad one, didn't you? And I just wanted to. I started in December. I've been in public management for approximately. I really don't need this.
Okay, perfect.
All right, perfect. I've been in public management in public sector for about 35 years. Here in Littleton, we've got a population of about a little over 10,000 people, a budget of $60 million, and it's a great community.
Great. Robert, I'm struck by your optimism because when I look at town governments these days, I see stress and overrides and all that. So what's going on in Ayr that makes you so optimistic?
Well, as you know, Jason, 14 years ago I had jet black hair. No. So I'm always an optimist, but the town of Ayr makes that easy because we have great people and great businesses. And as you're seeing across this region, a lot of cities and towns are struggling financially. I'm pleased to report that isn't the case in Ayr as we're moving. With the schools, we have about a $34 million budget, 8,100 people. We're set for town meeting on April 22nd with a balanced budget, and we'll have over 1.5 million in free cash for the 7th year in a row. So things are and that is a true testament to the select board, the finance committee, but also really to the residents of town meeting and our business community. So we are in strong shape in Ayr. And
Why do you think you're in strong shape when other towns are struggling?
so I think it's a couple of things. One is Ayr is unique in that I like to think of Ayr more as a small city in a way. If you think about it, it's 9.5 square miles, 8,200 people, but we have a strong industrial base, which is key, and I'm pleased to report that both Catania Oils and Nasoya are both completing expansions, which is a testament to their investment in the town. We have all of the rail activity. We have a strong downtown business community. We have a lot of small businesses. So I think it's a partnership between the residents and the small businesses that we have a strong base.
Right. And Jim, tell us what's in Littleton. What do you see as some of the bright spots?
When I left the Baker Polito administration as a deputy undersecretary, I was looking at a number of different communities, and one thing that attracted me to Littleton was the stability. Here you have got a triple bond rating that has been established for many years. There's $15 million in free cash that's there. They approach budgeting and finance the exact same way I've approached it throughout my entire career, and that is conservative revenue estimates and everyone living within their budget. Other things that I also saw in Littleton, which were very attractive, the amount of projects were going on there. We have the old IBM site, which is over 500,000 square feet of space that Sal Lapoli is the developer with. And what we have going on there, that is going to be developed. There's going to be restaurants there. There's got some major tenants there, retail establishment, office space. It's also going to be 1,000 units of housing that is also going to be there. And most recently, he just submitted an amendment to his special permit to also add a boutique hotel on this property. That's right off 495. A lot of and very, very exciting things. We had a $3.5 million budget deficit when we got there, and we were able to absorb that within the budget. And really looking at those conservative revenue estimates, and you're able to, going forward, and maybe not be as conservative going forward for the next fiscal year, which helped us close that gap. And it's something that, there's many other things, brand new sewer around the town that is helping local businesses. There's a tremendous amount of relief there. Development is ugly, as we all know, and the businesses are complaining about the construction, the traffic, and everything like that. And please be patient, is my message. And I understand what you're going through, and I've been through it for 30 years. So that's
So we talked about the good stuff. Now, what's the biggest challenge you think your towns face?
Go ahead, bro.
Biggest challenge.
Give Jim time to think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, I mean, obviously, don't want to minimize, again, a lot of hard work goes into maintaining the financial and fiscal stability. And as we all know, in this region, it can turn on a dime. And so we work very hard at that. We're going to be moving into construction season in air, which is, as you were mentioning, development is a sign of progress, but it's also a sign of some short-term pain. One of the big projects we have starting this spring will be the West Main Street bridge replacement project. It's not the big bridge, it's the one before it. It's a failing culvert that needs to be replaced. It's a key piece of infrastructure for the town, and we anticipate there'll be some traffic impacts there as that starts in the spring, but is an investment in that. We've also been monitoring very closely the situation with the Stewart Medical. As we're all familiar, the Neshoba Valley Medical Center is a key asset not just for Air, but for the whole region. It's the second largest employer in the town of Air, but it serves this whole region. And with the recent shakeup on that level, both the select board, myself, and the town have been in close contact and have stressed both to the state, to the governor and the state senator, as well as the congresswoman, and to Stewart directly, the importance that the Neshoba Valley Medical Center, also, not only from a healthcare point of view, which is the most important, but from an economic point of view, remains operational. And we continue to get those assurances, but we watch that very closely because that would be a huge loss, not only for Air, but for the region. But we're cautiously optimistic that it will sell and there'll be a new owner, which has happened before, and we'll move forward.
Jim?
I think it takes a village. We all know it takes a village, and Robert has done a phenomenal job in Air, without a doubt. And as much as town managers, town administrators, we're all over the place, it's still a pretty small clique, if you want to say. I mean, we know of each other, we know of the strengths, we know of the challenges that many of us have. So I applaud Robert and the success he's had in Air. But I think it takes a village. You know, you reach out to your peers throughout. But within, I think it's very, very important, and I'm getting to my point, I promise. And I think it's imperative to have that relationship with the schools, because local businesses, when you try to attract employees there, and if there's a relocation or if there's anything like that, the first thing they do is house the school system, house the local school system. So it's important to have that strong relationship with your local school system and with the select board. Our biggest challenge, and we're approaching this with everybody as included, is retainage of employees and attraction of employees. That is our biggest challenge. We have very pivotal opportunities that we're investing in, a facilities director, a board of health director, that we can't fill a facilities director position in the town. We've gone through 3 rounds of advertising. There's a number of different middle management, administrative, and also the school department is also dealing with that. That is our biggest challenge at this point.
What do you think is driving that? Is it salaries? Is it cost of living in your area so you can't attract people to the town?
Yeah, we do a gut check with every single job and say, let's compare ourselves, let's make ourselves compatible. But I think it is the cost of housing in the area, and the cost of living is absolutely a deterrent, and that's why we're trying to expand our housing opportunities.
Right, because we probably read about the town of Milton being sued by the state for not changing its zoning under the MBTA Communities Act. That I think required 177 communities in the
Right.
MBTA service area to improve their zoning to make it for denser housing. Now, that would include both of your towns. So are you all set there, or is there action you need to take? What's on the
In
horizon?
Air's case, we were proactive on the MBTA, and we will meet the requirements, obviously, from the state. So we're in good shape on that front. But the Milton case, as you brought up, is very interesting.
Yeah, it is. And then you're gonna have the new housing at the IBM facility in Littleton, right? So that'll be a big boost.
It will, but it's not within that geographic boundary that the MBTA has established. We've already gone to town meeting back in November. It failed by a handful of votes, but the biggest issue, and the town didn't do a very good job, and I can say this, the town did not do a very good job by engaging the community, educating, because it was felt that, gee, we're not going to have someone shove it down our throat and tell us how we're going to vote. Well, many of the arguments is, so we are going back May 7th. We have done a much better job having workshops, educating. What's also helped is, I don't know if you've noticed in the Boston Globe recently, they're constantly doing, at first they're talking about the impacts with the town of Milton. And now most recently with the AG's office came out and said, and had a question and answer section that basically asked the questions with the answers. It is a law, it is mandatory, and we have got a tremendous amount on the line. But I'm very, very optimistic we'll be able to pass it in May and move forward. And I did talk to the town administrator in Milton, by the way, of the impact. And he named off a number of different grants, but he said all discretionary things that go across the governor's desk are off the table. All those grants that we just relied on. And people just don't see that. And for us, for Littleton, what that means, we're looking at Mass Works grants of $4 million plus a year just for the infrastructure to support the local downtown and the businesses. That's in jeopardy. And it's a matter of education, transparency, and communication.
When you look down the road at your towns and your finances, is the mix of income sustainable over the long term? Do you feel optimistic about that, or does something need to give? Because I've heard in some of these towns with the Prop 2.5 overrides, some comments from folks that 2.5 is too restrictive, right? That it doesn't keep up with inflation. So should that be changed? Or if you had a magic wand to wave, what would you change to help improve municipal finances? It's kind of an open question, but. And you both benefit because your towns have big industrial and business bases, where a lot of the towns around you don't. So you have that better mix.
I'll offer the following. I think that in this region, there are significant pressures that we are constantly battling. One is the cost of living continues to go up, which makes the cost of providing municipal services go up. And as Jim was mentioning, in hiring folks, we find that to be competitive, to attract folks and to keep them, the Metro West region in Boston is often setting the marketplace rate for these salaries that are through the roof and are much more challenging for the smaller towns to afford. So there is enormous pressure, I think, on this region in terms of the cost of living, also in terms of housing. I mean, in Air alone, Air, which was traditionally middle America, middle income, which is great. There are houses that are topping easily at 800,000, 900,000 in air. We're seeing a real challenge of forces of sort of gentrification as people continue to move westward to all of these towns because of affordability. So I would say there's enormous pressure on municipalities to balance the budgets and to provide the services at an affordable rate. And as you mentioned, you have the further restriction of the 2.5, but overrides, you can see the track record that is already started in this region. To pass an override, it's a real uphill battle, as you saw last night in Groton.
Yep.
Huge turnout, but decisively turned down.
Yeah, it failed in both Groton and Dunstable.
And Dunstable, yeah.
Jim, any thoughts?
Yeah, I do. I think that brings up a really good point about the ceiling of 2.5. One of the things, what I'm going through, the team and myself are going through at this point, is we are negotiating all of our bargaining agreements with the unions. And many of the employees within those units don't live in the town because they can't afford it. They're living 35, 45 minutes away in order to be able to and have their job. So, and to Robert's point, I mean, you do look at that driving factor in Boston with salaries and wages, and when part of the negotiation is the comparison to other communities. Well, as much as I would love to sit here and compare communities and salaries in different areas that are closer to Boston, we can't compete with that. That's the message. You know what? We can't compete. We're not going to be able to do that. I mean, what we'll do is we will provide you with, a good job, a good working environment, and all the equipment and the training that is necessary to be successful at your job, and the opportunities to advance from within. Fantastic. So that is a constant challenge for us. And regarding the 2.5, 2.5 was put in, I believe, back in 1980. And I think that I remember that from going around in high school and having my mom and dad listen to them talk about it. And I see that and their message back then was, that's good. That puts a cap on, so it's not a spending frenzy. It's nothing like that. But there has to be a scale here that was done. 2.5% was done back then. Maybe if it's increased incrementally, that would help lift that and be able to retain people, attract people.
Great. I get a bunch of other questions, but wanted to open it up to the audience. If anyone has any questions for our speakers on municipal finance or towns or things that bother you in your town to be fixed. Maybe while you're thinking, I'll ask you this: both of you are home to. Oh, we do. Awesome. Yeah.
Jason, I know on the tax bill that there's those extra things that you could contribute money to. So in Groton we have the senior center, the library. I forget what they are, but I was wondering if you guys do that as well, and is that helpful? Are you seeing a lot of revenue from that, or just really a minor amount? I think in Groton particularly, they write afterwards. They write back who got the scholarships that we contributed to. It feels good to me.
In Littleton, geez, I almost know the previous community I was in. There is a very strong foundation with our library and our senior center. We just broke ground on a brand new senior center that has been in the works for 30 years and that's with very aggressive fundraising. Aggressive isn't the right word, but very proactive in doing the fundraising and reaching out, and over the past 30 years to be able to contribute that, make that come to fruition. The library the brand new beautiful library has only been open for a few years, but there is a strong teamwork approach with fundraising efforts and moving forward. And there is a commitment by the town to absorb some of that through our capital stabilization fund with our some free cash, but there's that strong presence, and it does feel good. It feels very, very good. It absolutely does.
Yeah, I would echo that in air as well, that it's a key partnership with the community. So in AIR, for example, our friends of the AIR Library on average raise $6,000 to $8,000 a year for library programming. We have pretty robust various trust funds that members of the public and the business community over the decades have supported that go to scholarships and so forth. So I think that whole community business support is a huge piece of the service delivery, I think, in most municipalities, definitely Groton, I would say, Littleton, and Air. And also, we can't underestimate also the importance of when communities secure grants as well. Now, we know that all grants, the money comes from somewhere, whether it's federal or state level, but I think a lot of our municipal employees do a great job in securing key grants as well. So between the community support, business support, and securing grants, that's a huge piece of the finance, and it does feel good, and it does involve the community.
Excuse me, I mean, the grants is a great point. Getting back to we're looking to hire a consultant to write grants in specific areas for the community. We can't find anybody. And we have just, you go out there, but that is a great point, that it is a huge point that any municipality will really rely on and look to and look for every opportunity to support initiatives.
Other questions? Yes.
So Robert, you mentioned some of the things that you were doing for affordable housing, and you've got more housing coming in. What specifically are you doing in the need for affordable housing? What specifically are you guys doing in each town to expand affordable rentals and affordable home ownership? And I just have to do a little plug, it's Habitat's going to be building an AIR.
I was going to give you the plug,
Thank you.
Karen. So Carolyn, good to see you from Habitat for Humanity, which will be building its 5th Habitat home in AIR starting this summer. We're going to be real neighbors. It's going to be right behind the town hall on Newton Street, and it's going to be a beautiful project, and it's going to be again a true partnership, as the town of AIR is a community preservation fund community, so there'll be some CPA funds subject to town meeting approval, and of course the town support. So affordable housing is key to AIR. As I mentioned earlier, one of the things that makes AIR very special is that it was really middle America in a good way, and we had all types of people from all economic levels and all backgrounds, and with the fort's history, we don't want to fall into a total gentrification trap, and there's huge pressure on that. People can't, seniors, as you know, Carolyn, seniors, hardworking folks that can't afford, whether it's the rent or houses, affordable housing is on the forefront of our concern. So we have formed an affordable housing trust. We also have an affordable housing committee. Habitat's been a great partner. We're also scheduled, NOAA will be doing a 40B affordable housing project in AIR off of Fitchburg Road, just past the Anderson Funeral Home, which when completed, we will meet the state's requirement for affordable housing, but it can't just stop there. The thing we take very serious is if people can't afford to live and work in AIR, we have a big problem. And as Jim mentioned, and we have the same issue too. A lot of folks that work for the town live outside of the town because they can't afford to. So affordable housing is definitely in AIR on the forefront of a priority in staying affordable. Good question.
That's a very good question, and it's in Littleton we have got a very strong affordable housing trust also. As a matter of fact, I was talking with the chair of the Affordable Housing Trust last night and identifying they've got approximately $1 million in the bank in which they're going to continue. Projects have been identified to create that opportunity for the affordable housing. Another thing is we're doing as part of the IBM, the land, there's big enough area that there's a potentially, we would be building a new town hall that would be there, and the existing town hall, which is an old school, will then be turned into senior affordable housing, and that is as we go forward. So that is one of the there are certain things that all town managers and administrators maybe lose sleep over, and I think from my perspective, I mean, affordable housing is one of them that I do lose sleep over, because sitting across from someone that just says I can't afford to live here, that's, you know, that it's heartbreaking in my opinion. So that's what it is.
Great. Any more questions?
Jay,
Oh, yeah, Jim.
so you guys both talk about affordable housing. What are we talking for rents, for affordable rents? We know what the housing market is, it's out of the ballpark, but what's affordable rents?
Well, you've got to go by the area median income based upon the affordability factor that's put out there. Those are those rents that you have to abide by, that developer has to abide by.
So there's a lot of us in this room here that have tenant property, that have tenants. And our rents are justified by what the towns charge us, what our insurance is and everything else. So that's what, you can do what you want, but that's what, anyone says, oh my God, your rents are high. Well, they have to be, because I have to pay the cost to do that, so.
Right.
Right, Jim, excellent point, and that's the challenge when I said these forces that are driving all of this, as you mentioned. And another challenge we have, like for example, they use community designation zones to determine a lot of these metrics, and air is in the same metric as, say, the city of Cambridge, for example. And there's been a great argument to try to change this. You know, we're sort of on the frontier out here. You can't compare air, I'll argue, to Cambridge, but when all of these metrics, as you mentioned, Jim, that set these affordable rates and so forth, we're in I think a skewed metric, but point well taken.
But Robert, Air was a poor town. I've been in this town all my life.
Yep.
What happens now, if people leave the town, they want to come back, they can't afford to come back.
Right.
You know, you could buy a house for $200,000 or $300,000 on the high side, 40 years ago. Now you can't even buy a house, you just said it, $800,000-900,000.
Yep.
How can a kid with, a young couple with 2 kids support, buy a house and be involved like that when they have daycare and everything else? It's just crazy.
Right,
Exactly.
and that is one of the biggest challenges. And unfortunately, there's not a clear magic wand or a clear, which would be great answer, but these enormous pressures to this region.
I see a question over here. Tom?
I just,
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
no, you go.
Somebody go.
The distinction between affordable housing, big A, income restricted affordable, and just affordable housing for, a regular working class person. What can the towns do that can help increase the number of housing so that it's affordable, not big A affordable, but affordable to people? Because I do a lot of permitting, and permitting is incredibly expensive for developers. And then they run the risk of not being approved in the end. And so what can the towns do with their zoning, with their permitting boards to make it more friendly and more affordable for developers to develop more housing, which would supply and demand lower costs?
Excellent question, Tom. Good to see you. And
You
then,
have some answers too.
yeah, we get another chair. And a good distinction between the little a and the big A, as they say, affordable housing. I think that's definitely something that the town can look at. You're an expert in this, and you're correct in terms of permitting, in terms of utilities as well. In air, we have a public water and sewer system, which is a huge asset to the town in terms of those services and in economic development. But we're very sensitive. They just set the rates, for the water and sewer, trying to take that all into consideration, because all of these costs, to Jim's point, drive everything up. So definitely something that can be looked at is, are there ways to make permitting more efficient? And the costs involved in permitting is a piece of the puzzle, as is utilities as well.
The cost of doing business, and I know we're in a room full of business people here, and I respect that. I've been in a couple different situations. One situation is where you make sustainable investments in the upkeep of, let's say, your infrastructure. And now, talking about water and sewer rates, and there's a steady climb there as you make that investment. I've also been in an environment that there was no investment for previous administration for years and years, then all of a sudden, you're hit with DEP with a 19-day boil water order in the middle of the visitor-based economy tourist season. It's hard. And then you see the water and sewer rates going from, almost doubling because of this major thing. Unfortunately, we have, just as everyone is doing business, we have to approach it and be as conservative as possible, but still making wise investments going forward. We don't like raising prices. We don't like saying, well, now your building permit is going to be this much money, or the excise tax is going to be this much money. We don't appreciate that. That's not something that we have enjoyed doing. Quite honestly, I would love to be able to, as Robert had mentioned, there is no silver bullet here. There isn't. It's a balance. And if anyone has one of those silver bullets, please, I'll take one here in the community.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, just a quick one. What's your tax revenue mix between commercial and residential in your towns, and how do you see that trending?
I'll go first, as air is unique in that we have a split tax rate between residential and commercial and industrial, and that is always a great debate every year when it's the tax classification, is you're trying to balance residents, against businesses, and I hate to say against, but that's how it plays out. In the commercial industrial community in air foots about 2/3 of the taxes. So
Wow.
it's a significant
I live in
piece.
Westford, and it's
You're right, Westford is completely different. So, that is, the businesses are bearing the lion's share of that. And then we're also sensitive to folks such as Mr. Bernard that are both residents and businesses that have to, pay both. So that is, air is unique in this area with that split.
Quite honestly, I haven't really completely familiarized myself with the exact numbers, but I believe we're approximately 70-30. We've got residential compared to commercial, approximately that. We have tried. I know that in talking with the principal assessor, she was very, very concerned because the value was going up on major. We have Amazon, we've got Patriot Beverage, we've got some major employers down there, and of the five, we call them the five big businesses down there, everyone filed an abatement. There are approximately 100 abatements that were filed, 50% of which got approved, but the big five did not get a tax, was not approved. So that's what we're doing.
All right, do we have one more question? Yes, sir.
So, very shortly, the governor has made it quite clear that she wants more housing. She's going to do whatever it takes to do that. And I think very shortly, they're going to open Evans up to a flood of housing opportunities. What do you see that posing? Is it an opportunity or is it a problem for Air and surrounding towns?
Excellent question. Good to see you again. The housing crisis that you hear of starting, and the governor has made that a priority. In Air, we've been monitoring the situation in Devens for some time. We participate in this framework committee that meets with Harvard and Shirley and the DEC and other stakeholders about the future of Devens. And two issues that have come to the forefront that you mentioned is, according to the DEC, there's about 82 acres of developable land on Devens, which is under the jurisdiction of mass development in the state. So there's some concern that will the state look to move rapidly for some housing there, and what does that mean? And also the long-standing issue with Vicksburg Square, which would be a longer process based on just the remediation of those structures. But it is something that, it's an excellent question and point, and something I think to follow very closely because it has moved up to the forefront with the enormous pressure on the governor and the state to rapidly find places for affordable housing. And when you have 82 acres, that are under your jurisdiction. Granted, I'm not oversimplifying it, there's steps and so forth, but as you know, has moved right up to the forefront. And what does that mean for this region as, you know, further development on Devon's? Where are those kids going to go to school? What does that mean as far as impacts to the local towns in terms of services? So it is definitely an interesting time.
Littleton's in an environment that we've exceeded our 10% affordability for our housing stock. However, because the select board and so many people in the community have viewed the affordable housing issue as it's not a problem, it's a crisis. And they're not stopping at the fact that we're beyond our 10%, we're good. We're aggressively pursuing rezoning changes to create that affordable housing, those affordable housing opportunities as we go forward. It's something that's closer to businesses and making a mixed use, doing zoning like that. We continue to do that, and the governor's office has been very appreciative of being so aggressive on trying to tackle, or at least contribute to tackling the issue.
All right. Thank you for being here this morning. Join me in thanking Robert Pontbriand and Jim Duggan for their time and thoughts.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, gentlemen. Before we wrap up a few things, thank you to the amazing team here at the Hilton Garden Inn for their amazing support. As always, above par. Thank you to Air Public Access for joining us and recording today's event. Definitely check out their website for all the great programming that they provide. Very special thanks to our series sponsor, Fidelity Bank. And definitely, if you'd love more information about the economic forecast breakfast next week, let me know. Our next, please check out your program. We're finalizing the flyer, but we'll send that out shortly. But our next breakfast, there's been a date change. So it is going to be on Tuesday, June 11th. And I'm super excited for our guest speaker is going to be Mike Taylor. And I don't know if anybody in the room knows who Mike is, but how many people in the room have their own Wikipedia page? Because Mike does, which is, I know, well, his whole story is very, very amazing and impressive. But Mike was recently responsible for planning and executing the mission to extract the Nissan executive Carlos Ghosn from Japan. And then Mike served 2 years in prison in Japan. So Mike is going to share his story with us. So it's going to be, I had the opportunity to have coffee with him, and I'm just speechless. So very much. Tuesday, June 11th, put that in your calendars because you definitely are going to want to attend. And in closing, did you know that today, April 3rd, is World Party Day? What is World Party Day, do you ask? Great question. World Party Day is based on the idea that peace is not the opposite of war, merely its absence. So the real opposite of war is a party, and today is World Party Day. And World Party Day aims to synchronize a massive worldwide party to celebrate everything that is good and optimistic. So today, do something happy and celebrate optimism and joy. And we will see you in June at our breakfast with the boss at 11. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Again, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. And Jason, I would like to get, I knew you would find that. The track sheets aren't the most expensive track sheets, but you know. So I would like to get some photos for our award winners if they can come to the front of the room with your awards. And thank you so much.